Mr. Edit Man presents. My son peed himself in front of his teacher when she did not let him go to the bathroom. What is your proudest moment as a parent? A while back my 12-year-old daughter was being bullied by a boy. She told the bus driver, who did nothing about the situation. The next day the kid punched her in the arm, so she punched him in the face. I asked how he responded. She said he just sank into his seat and stared out the window. She added he cried a little, silently. In first grade we played a rhyming game, finding words that ended with the sound dot. I got bored with 3-letter words, so I spiced it up with kumquat. My teacher would not believe that it was a real word and thought I was being a smartass. She also could not find it in the dictionary. The next day my mom took me to the store to buy a bunch of kumquats and I shared them with the whole class. My daughter and her 2 half-siblings rode the same bus to school for a while. This one boy, the neighborhood bully, kept harassing people on the bus. When he got around to my daughter and my stepkids, he started with my oldest stepdaughter. She just clammed up and tried not to respond to the kid, but she was in tears before long. When he got to my stepson tried really hard to ignore him, but was visibly upset. When he got to my daughter, the youngest by several years, he started to say one thing, and my daughter just doubled up a fist and clocked him in the nose. She got in a bit of trouble, but not very much when the bus driver backed up her story that the kid was a bully. I could not have been more proud. In 6th grade, a kid in my class kept making fun of me for reading Halo and Star Wars books. My teacher was very fond of me and hated this kid. In the last week of school, I get fed up with his bullshit and said, listen, if you do not shut up I'm going to punch you in the face. He said, do it. And so, I did. Knocked him straight to the ground. And he was one of the athletic kids, and I was just a small, kinda chubby little guy. My teacher secretly told me good job. I got suspended for a few days and was not allowed to play Star Wars Battlefront for a week. Goddamn, that sucked. But the best part of it was hearing the principal call my dad, tell him what happened, and hearing my dad laugh and say, that's my boy. End of my story. Thought I'd share. I have twin daughters, and when they had just turned 3 years old we took them to the doctor for their checkup. He made a big deal about how glad he was to see the twins. Then he was trying to get them to talk a bit. I think to see if they had developed where they should verbally. He asked one of my girls how old she was, and she shyly said, 3. Then he turns to my other girl and asks how old she is. My daughter gives him a what the duck stare, then says in a matter-of-fact voice, well ... we are twins. So I'm 3 too. Then she looks up at me and says, doctors should know that, Dad. I was beaming with pride. This happened to me. It was about 10-15 minutes until we were to be dismissed and get on the bus. My teacher gave me permission to go, but a teacher who was near the bathrooms blocked my way and refused to let me go. She said I would miss my bus. I was a great student, never got in trouble and so on. She argued I would play around. I explained my bus ride is at least an hour long on a short day. She didn't care. So I pissed myself. It was not intentional, but then my parents called the school and she was forced to apologize to me in front of my class. My daughter 1 minute old. Her first act on this planet. My husband placed his iPhone near her so my mother-in-law could hear her breathing. She outstretched one hand and in an almost poetic single movement proceeded to hang up the call. I was proud. And yes, she's still awesome. My proudest moment as a mother so far is watching my daughter take care of the pets in our home. The dog, cat and fish are always fed. Every day. She is only 5, and I never ask her to feed the animals or take care of them. I consider it my job, but every day without fail she beats me to it. I think this speaks wonders about what kind of person she is going to grow into. Can I answer for my dad? He would say it was the time I was playing in the sandbox in the backyard at 2-3 years old. With my older brothers and sister, a rattlesnake crawled into the sandbox and over by my feet. Cue my siblings following the sandbox. My sister runs for the house screaming for dad, while my brothers shout at me to get away, be careful, etc. My dad comes outside, sees me say stupid Nick and grab the thing right around the middle and fling it behind me with my chubby toddler arms. When my son was in grade 6, his class got a sub for about 1 month as his teacher was quite sick. It turns out the sub was quite abusive verbally. You have to know he was attending private school and things get handled differently at times. Anyhow, fed up, the kids got together one day and wrote a letter to the school principal/owner asking for her dismissal. Angry as hell, The owner lashed at the creator of the letter /rebellion. She recognized the writing style. When I found out, I lashed at the owner for not recognizing their right to express their concerns. I was very proud of the fact the kids handled this issue the proper way without the help of adults. They were in grade 6. She had a grudge against me for sure. The next day, she decided to make an example of my son by trying to make him admit that what the class did was wrong. She went on and on. He never budged and rebutted every single one of her arguments. Frustrated, she told him he was quite stubborn and she was done with him. He looked at her and, not batting one eyelid, said to her calmly, "You lost." She looked at him even angrier. He pursued, "The first rule of debating is to keep things impersonal. No insults. No personal remarks. I learned that in this class. You just proved all of us you are wrong." She stormed out, called me at home, and demanded a written apology for the next day. I stood by my son through and through and told her to go buy herself a nice debating book. My son Maximum, 2 years old, and I had a snack at Wendy's the other day. He had not napped and was cranky, and when we ran out of french fries he started to throw a loud tantrum, attracting the attention of the whole dining room full of people. This little blonde girl about the same age hopped off her chair, walked over to Maximum, and handed him a couple of her own fries. He looked down at the fries, then looked her right in the eye and calmly said, "Thank you." I was so proud of both of them, and the whole place was smiling and laughing as we left. When I was in 4th grade we were allowed 2 bathroom breaks a day. Well, I had used both mine up in the morning. For whatever reason I was apparently filled with liquid that day. Well, after lunch and recess I had to go again. My teacher, who not only hated me, but also hates the rest of my family, but is friends with my grandmother, I'm unsure what her problem was, liked to torture me. She would make fun of me and such really mean things. Well, I begged and pleaded to go to the bathroom, but she told me if I got up I would have recessed attention for a week. Eventually I got up and ran to the bathroom. Unfortunately not before I half pissed myself. I was so embarrassed I ran out of the bathroom to the nurse. My teacher was outside the bathroom and chased me all the way to the nurse. My dad came and picked me up, and I told him what happened. He went to the principal and had my teacher called down. All I heard was my dad, who is very intimidating, yelling as loud as I have ever heard him yell at this old ditch. It was awesome. She walked right by me without a glance, and then my dad came out of the office and we left. The principal was pissed at both the teacher for being so cruel and my dad for yelling swears loud enough for half the school to hear. My dad is awesome. My parents are always telling this story, so it must be this one. Both my twin sister and I have red hair, but neither of my parents do. My dad has dark brown, almost black hair, and my mom has dark brown hair. When we were little, people would always ask us, but really my parents, where did they get such pretty red hair? And we would say it grew right out of our heads. My parents loved that. Standing in line at the BX store on the Air Force Base, a woman and her 6-year-old son start telling me that my 3.5-year-old son was going to get beat up for wearing his University of Alabama shirt out in Arkansas. Right before I could tell her to duck off, my son yelled "Hi-ya!" and karate chopped her son right in the neck. He dropped that kid like a sack of potatoes. When I was in grade 5 I loved the shite out of animals. Then one day our teacher was doing a unit on mammals when he said this: "Every single mammal gives birth to live young." 11-year-old me could not let that slide. I put my hand up and told him that there were actually some mammals that do lay eggs, like the platypus. He pretty much humiliated me in front of that class and said that was ridiculous and not at all true. So I went home and got my encyclopedia out and found the entries for the platypus and echidna and highlighted every single time egg-laying mammal was written. Then I showed it to him in front of the class. Later I had a bunch of little girls tell me I was mean for embarrassing him. What the duck? Has a teacher who taught you something wrong? When I was in 5th grade I had to pee really bad during recess and asked the teacher if I could use the restroom. She said no, because we weren't allowed to use the restroom. So I did the only logical thing and pissed down the slide. When my son was 4 he got in some trouble at preschool. The teacher came over. He told her her hair looked nice today. She was laughing too hard to punish him. In 7th grade the same thing happened to me where the teacher would not let me go to the bathroom. But during a test, when I finally got to the bathroom I came up with the idea of seeing how having to go to the bathroom impacted students' work. The teacher rejected my project saying it was too vulgar. Next year my new teacher let me work on the project. present it. And I ended up getting into the science fair. It was a great feeling when my old teacher walked by and saw the project I worked on. Sweet relief. Ha. Watching my 4-year play the shite out of New Super Mario Bros. On the Wii. I was never great at sports as a kid. Video games were always my expertise. So nothing makes me prouder than to see my son following in my footsteps. For some reason my youngest daughter hates Justin Bieber. So one day she asked if she could use the paper shredder. When I asked what for, she held up a picture of Justin Bieber she had ripped out of a magazine. I was quite proud and a bit concerned. Mostly proud though. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. Smash that like button if you have enjoyed it. Bam. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this. So either go do something else or watch more videos. That's about it. There is no more here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? This is not a secret, but subscribe for more videos like this.